Hey, Bulls and Bears YouTube family. You're watching Bull Boom Bear Bust, back with another dose of economic reality. Today we're going to talk about banks preparing to seize cash and possibly your cash. And there's some big names, big investors out there talking about that and telling us that that's what's going to happen in their opinion. We're going to talk about who's saying that and why. Also, a record number of bank closures in 2021, worse than any other year, including worse than the financial crisis, 2008, 2009. So something to be aware of. Let's go ahead and get into the news. First, legendary investor David Morgan is out there telling us that banks will no longer do bailouts, and we've talked about that here. Banks can no longer do bailouts since the Dodd-Frank Act was passed. And this has been widely reported. No more bailouts. The lawmakers behind Dodd-Frank say that the taxpayers will not foot the bill the next time a bank fails. But here's the thing. Banks are set up to never fail. Why? Well, banks no longer have to keep any physical money in the bank. It's perfectly legal for a bank to not have any money in the bank, zero physical dollars in the bank, physical currency, but yet still be able to give out loans and mortgages. Now, of course, they're still going to keep some money in the bank. We're talking about coins and paper money because people that need to go in and get cash need to be able to get the cash. Otherwise, you're going to start to see a panic. And there have been reports of people going in to get their cash and the bank not having enough cash and telling people to come back the next day or in a few days to get the rest of the cash. An example would be somebody goes in to get $20,000 because they want to buy a vehicle with cash or make a cash transaction, and the bank doesn't have the money or is not willing to give them the money. The question is why? Well, that's because the banks don't have to have any money in reserves now. There's a zero reserve requirement. So a lot has changed since 2008, the financial crisis. People telling you that this thing is going to play out just like it happened in the financial crisis 12 years ago are completely wrong. 14 years ago wrong. Time flies. What a bull market, right? Bull run for 14 years. And people wonder why, how can this last so long? But that's because things like this, you do not have to have, as a bank, no money in the bank, no reserves required. So banks don't need bailouts. Bank bailouts are illegal anyways, but now instead of bailouts, now what they do is they just change the name. Now we have QE to infinity combined with the zero reserve requirement. But it's getting interesting considering banks no longer need your money. They no longer need you to deposit your money into their institution, into their coffers, because there's no reserve requirement. So why would they need your money? So therefore, we're seeing a record number of bank closures. We saw this in 2021. Now, of course, they're blaming it on the health crisis, and maybe that's part of it. There is a labor shortage. But there's a saying out there that's very well known: never let a good crisis go to waste. Are the banks using the health crisis as a reason to close down more branches, and that way people will not be suspicious or as suspicious? And this was widely reported. This is an article out of Banking Dive. U.S. banks closed over 2,900 bank branches in 2021, a 38% jump from the year prior. And that, folks, is an all-time high record number of bank closures. Now, Wells Fargo was the bank that led the way as far as the numbers of branches that were closed. The second one was U.S. Bank or U.S. Bank Corp. Now, what the banks are out there telling people, it's because, one, the health crisis. Two, it's because of online banking and more people just doing online banking and being in less need of physical branches for cash transactions or person-to-person business. So why a 38% increase from 2020? We had the health crisis in 2020. We had digital and online banking in 2020. So why the 38% jump? Something doesn't add up. Well, I think a big part of that puzzle that's missing is the fact that there's no reserves required. Why do the banks need to stay open? Why do they have to have so many branches if they no longer need your deposits in their bank? at their bank to be able to loan out money. Okay, we know money has just become a digit on a screen, essentially. Or I should say what they call money is now just a digit on a screen somewhere. So therefore, the need for physical currency no longer exists. And now, of course, you have the law where they don't have to have any currency in their deposits. Now, let me also repeat this. When you put your money in a bank, you are an unsecured creditor to the bank. You're an unsecured creditor. So FDIC will still protect your deposit up to $250,000. But if you read the fine print, they can take a long time to get you your money if you lose money in some sort of a bank failure or let's say bank run. But here's the thing. You will probably not get it in physical form because there's not enough physical money to hand out to all the people that have actual digits or deposits in a bank. In fact, less than 10% of all money in existence right now is in physical form. It's mostly digital. 90+% of it is digital currency. And that's some of the reasons why we continue to stress here. Keep some money out of the bank. I shouldn't say you should do that because anything could happen. You can get your somebody could come in and take it from your mattress or wherever you're keeping it at home. So I don't give advice. But what I'm doing is I'm not keeping all of my money in the bank. And in fact, very little of my money in the bank, just enough to pay the bills and a little bit extra in case I decide to do some spending. Also be very careful about using your debit card, right? When someone does identity theft or some sort of cyber intervention into your account, it's better to have them run up a credit card in your name versus draining your checking account. So be very careful as cyber events continue to increase. As far as the banks seizing cash, if everything continues to go according to the law, the people with less than $250,000 do not have anything to worry about. But laws can be changed and laws can be ignored. So if you trust the institutions that they're going to make whole with you if something does happen to the banks, then you may not have anything to worry about here and you may not be concerned. But it's not just legendary investor guru David Morgan that's out there saying that. Many people are out there saying that the banks will take money from depositors since bailouts are no longer allowed. All right, again, but all these things can change anytime. Next week, there could be a new report that says there was an order signed, and these things could change. We'll keep you updated if that comes up. And with all these bank branch closures, we see stories now where people have lost their money in the bank. In some cases, lost it only to be the issue to be resolved later. Here's a recent story about a man here in California deposited $33,000 in a Bank of America checking account, never to see it again. Well, there was an update after this where the Bank of America finally resolved this, but they closed his branch later the same day after he made his deposits, and it was because of a labor shortage and the health crisis. So in this case, this man was lucky. But what if he wouldn't have been so lucky? What if the bank would have just said, sorry, the branch is closed and now it's gone? All right, so I urge everyone to use caution, do your due diligence. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do, but take this information and do what you will and plan accordingly. But to say the least, we're headed into some very interesting times. It's already interesting, but it's about ready to get more interesting as we continue into this year. And I would just urge everyone to be on high alert and have an emergency plan, an emergency backup, emergency funds out of the system, survival items. Don't expect to go to the grocery store when the next shoe drops and have everything that you need on the shelves because of everything that's happening right now. So be cautious, people. Big love. Stay safe. Talk to you later, all. Bye.